Gare Dora Jin Chong Dom, Dene Chen Dom Chong, Chong Rojan Bezon Sojan, Tajin and Yalden, Shore, Sayin, Beje, Joje, Meton, Rido, Linjin, Yinde, Chembonde, Sanje, Jindo, Mende, Vivo, Dogan, Dayan, Chebora, Shore, Idama, Guru, Rana, Mandala, Nia, Daya. Sanganje Jodon Soje Kaman Sankyo Parado Dane Yaso Jen Taki Chuguran Give Sonam Gen Dola Pensha Sanje Nobara Kyo Sanganje Jodon Soje Chonam Sankyo Parado Dane Shabshu Dage Chugin Jebe Sonam Je Dola Pensha Sanje Nobara Sanganje Chedon Soje Chonam Janjo Mando Dane Chanjo Dage Chugyun Jeve Sonam Gen Dola Pensha Sanje Nobara Kendra Logan Suddenly he was Jendo Hello Take two coming again, kind of party commodo. No. Olas, Majona Gitada, Sanji Tanji Tendo, Sojalana Mepanyanda, but Zobi Sanji Kumpara, Kindi, Toba Shago, Petoba Shavi Chedo, and be sure of Jacksania, Becono, Sanjuji Simchi, say Sembegon and Semberico. Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching. 토약 되는 얘기 여러 손장이나 다 당부도 배치유 가르쳐는 아니 렌데라 바 렌데게 남자한테 시작해 좀 보시겠어요. I believe that we are seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood as our ultimate spiritual goal. In order to actualize complete enlightened state, one of the things that we must understand is the theory of law of karma and its actions. It's very important for us to understand karmic actions and how they function and what kind of outcomes they produce. 가령에서나 렌데게 남자한테 하고 싶은 마시나 내가 알아서 달래 다 개와담 달래들 레게와담 메게와 로마텐 숨요레스 다 숨진 나니 다 개외래래때 랑도 진교에 지라까 커버레스. It is very important for us to understand the theory of law of karma and its actions. Broadly speaking, we can talk about three different categories or types of karmic action. We can talk about positive or wholesome karmic actions or good karmas. We can talk about negative or unwholesome karmic actions or bad karmas. And then we can talk about karmic actions which are neither positive nor negative, and we simply call them lumaten, literally meaning unspecified or neutral. And so when we look at these different types of karma, what we can see is that when it comes to understanding positive karmic actions and to engage in them, we cannot understand karma in great detail just on our own. We need to educate ourselves about karma. So we experience positive feelings and negative feelings, or we can say pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or happiness and sadness and so on. These feelings and experiences we go through are the results or outcomes of our positive and negative karmic actions. Such experiences, both good and bad, they are not the products of or not the outcomes of what we call neutral karmic actions, neutral in the sense of karmas which are neither positive nor negative.
Megevale donge tang gel dendro thamchit hoskana checha megele la tene anda dusne andwaru to kishigina ta penji galeta ga disiga tangare ane ngesonke ane ta sumbote endusenta pengare ane ta dendro ne za sata mi ane lama komba de ane gola tene jungores ta ta na ye ka ane rang jula semta lui kati ineta dedun jungate tereta debochi da gibe shomba ina te le gola kin jungores ta ral mende periki dungeta ane tene mende periki shomba ina ta ti josate ane le megola tin jungeta iche bata te shabasha gures.
Great Indian realized Buddhist master Arya Nagarjuna states clearly in his precious garland or Ratna Avali, as Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, Nagarjuna states, suffering comes from negativity or negative karmas, and all kinds of happiness arise from positive karma, and so on. So what Nagarjuna is basically stating here is when we think in terms of karmas precipitating good and bad rebirths in different states of samsara or single existence, by the statement which it says suffering comes from negativity, what that also includes is that if we create negative karmic actions or bad karmas, then these bad karmas could precipitate our rebirth into any of the three unfortunate states of rebirth, and where we experience tremendous suffering. And so means, to be reborn as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, as a lesser kind of animal, these are the outcomes of negative karma and all the suffering that goes through in such states. By the statement where he says happiness comes from positive action, that also includes that good rebirths that we find in the human world or in the celestial world and so on. These are the outcomes of positive karmic actions. Then whatever pleasures and happiness we do find in human life and in the divine life, or celestial life, are also the outcomes of positive karmic actions. So the point I'm trying to get across to you is this: even as we look at our own personal life here and now, we go through all kinds of good and bad experiences, and we experience all kinds of pleasant and unpleasant feelings. All of these are related with and are the outcomes of our own positive and negative karmic actions. So when we look at our body and mind, like if we have a physical pain or we have a mental agony, these are the outcomes of negative karmas that we ourselves have created. Or if we have a physical comfort or happiness, or we have a mental happiness or comfort, these are the outcomes of positive actions that we ourselves have created.
ane ran ane debu de shiwo nga ta jit yungu ya ma cheza jit meben drebe ki yungu ya ma so sa ran debu de kibo yungu do na ane ta ran ke ane chudu go res semba zambo shis kanang do wa sen zambo ki yebi na de tho ne ane lu ta nga ta yisum bo te ya ne re ta lunga ni bo cha sen zambo ki yena lunga ni bo te yisun dang chan ta ran ke lunga yisum bo te gewe so lo kort pa ki yungu ya res do sen.
So based upon such principles of karma that are, kind spiritual teachers or gurus or lamas, they often advise us that if we do wish for peace, happiness, and goodness, then we must create positive karmic actions. And we must cultivate spirituality or dharma, because cultivating spirituality or dharma involves creating positive karmic actions. And so when we create positive karmic actions, then we ourselves are going to experience positive outcomes or results, because that is in the law of nature. So if we don't create such causes, then we cannot expect to experience their results, because without causes, there cannot arise any result, because that is again a natural principle. And so what we really learned is to cultivate a positive state of mind, such as kind-heartedness or altruism. So when we do that, so when our mind is positive, when our mind is kind and generous and caring, then our actions of body and speech are also influenced by that positive state of mind, and we find ourselves doing something positive physically or saying something positive. And as a result, as we can see, that our actions of body, speech, and mind, all of them become very positive action. And so these positive actions lead to positive results or outcomes.
She said that Nate Shagina, my company sharing your rate. I can't get till time with doing your race.
On the other hand, if we do not create a lot of positive karmic actions, but we find ourselves creating a lot of negative karmic actions, then really what happens is these negative karmic actions will produce negative results. And if we think in terms of a rebirth, so we could find ourselves in a state or a situation where we experience a lot of problems and suffering. So this is what we really need to understand, how our own actions produce positive and negative results, outcomes that we ourselves have to experience. So we really need to think about if you will, the tremendous implications of our karmic action. Let's say if we create a lot of negative karmas, and then they precipitate our rebirth in, say, hell or hungry ghost world or in a lesser kind of animal world. So once we get there, or we are reborn there, then because of the situations in such states of existence, that we would rather find it very difficult, if not impossible, to create positive karmic actions. So that's how we really sink deep into, if you will, a state of suffering.
Honest. That the lesson Chane Jerumuching Dulcanando. Lamcho Drobalaneta, Tanju Tangi Toguris, Tixcana, Carisa Lamcho, the Sini Samite, Maniepa the Sashungumaris, and Canando, Jeza Lamcho Drobala, Rang Ten Zambuch Togur, that thing. Ani dendro thing nani and kita when chudra ta kokop yosake thing abaji niego res kanando.
So because of that great Tibetan master Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa Rinpoche has stated elsewhere, as Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, that it is really important for us to make efforts to find a good life basis that is fully qualified and categorized, so that we could use that life basis to cultivate positive spiritual paths and accomplish spiritual goals. And so it is really important for us to make efforts to create karmas to be able to find good rebirth in our next life or in the future. And of course, it's not enough to be reborn in a relatively stated, a good state of existence, but within that, try to find the best kind of life that constitutes the best life basis for spiritual development. And so that's so important, because without which it is rather very hard to make a spiritual progress if we find ourselves in a very difficult situation, such as 3 bad migrations.
Somchata, Tindiga Anita Naranzote, Sheva Juni, that ten Zambukin those in that children, ten Zambukin, Sheva Juni, those Shumba Tovina, and that Naranzo me, you think ten Zambuki children, Kokomi or was. Tan di Sheva Shemata Hanahi. We have the time, never do some Tanguris.
So our plan, spiritual plan, if you will, is that this time we all have been very fortunate, to be able to have this precious human life and all its, qualities or characteristics, and we have been fortunate to be able to meet with the Dharma and have opportunity to practice or cultivate it. So if we really make efforts now to make sure that in our next life we find this kind of, good rebirth. So in our successive lives, if we could find this kind of a rebirth and then continue our spiritual development, then we will be able to make, good progress towards, fulfilling our spiritual goals.
So that tanging him a human name. Then Tanjo ten Zambuki Toba Shevel Tangarancho and the Jute Sago Yoris. Minty Shopa, Payat Karesna, Soldier Balasavata, and then McGill lay to the Papang Contushi. And the law show and gave a do contusion tongue about the Zombashego doors.
So connecting this whole idea, what we need to do here, and relating that to the theory of law of karma and its outcomes, that if we would like to have this kind of good rebirth and pursue our spiritual development in the next life or in the successive lives, then we've got to create the causes to find good rebirth in the future. So which means we need to create positive karmic actions, and we need to stop creating negative karmic actions which otherwise become impediments and obstacles for us to find this kind of good rebirth in the future. And so therefore, without doing the things we need to do, basically creating good karmas to find good rebirths and not creating bad karmas that could become impediments, without causes, creating the causes, we cannot expect to find result.
Tati me Tenzin Dorjee Tsami ta me lute toba shebala ta kariji jo kariji sagro so na altepan dos ba hyebe ina tambo de la trim number ta ba ji ta ngeba de go go trim number ta bi ye zones je za trim number ta ba ji yongya ke tabi she go.
So what are the, if you will, essential causes to find a precious human life, just the kind we have in the future? Number one, we really need to observe pure ethics or morality. In other words, keeping our moral principles intact as the foundational basis is very important.
Children number the big zoom to trim that among the Hughes. Karen is not a Hughes, that's Hamalo. Radu showing in and that Radu Majo in the Kanga Tamalo pay Bangoya, the Karis, Namigate your bongo trim day. Never the song, Migate your pap bang at the pap bang. Just that deal or show the peta, Reta, Sungu.
So when we talk about pure ethics or keeping pure ethics or morality, of course, morality consists of many different kinds, but there is a basic fundamental moral principles, if you will, which apply to one and all. In other words, that whether we are monks or nuns or lay people, it does not matter. All of us must abandon the 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind and adopt the 10 positive actions of body, speech, and mind. So that is our basic fundamental moral principles.
That ring, the kid I knew here to say, Mariscarina, the Sava ina, we give a kiss in it and Luchuan, some Agon, ye, some those do that they can be associated by Chevy Javashakers.
Of course, I don't have time today, or I don't intend to go into each of those 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind today. But if there are completely new people who are completely new to this kind of idea or topics, I would advise you to just kind of out of your curiosity, just find out what are the 3 negativities of body, and what are the 4 negativities of speech, and what are the 3 negativities of mind. So abandoning 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind is like very basic, moral practice, which applies to one and all. And then if one has taken monastic ordinations as monks and nuns, then has to keep the monastic ethics of the vows intact. If one has not taken monastic ordination, but as a lay practitioner, one may have taken bodhisattva ethics, or one may have taken, in addition to that, tantric ethics or the Vajrayana ethics. So we need to keep all those ethics, different levels of ethics that we have committed ourselves to, pure and intact.
That children say at the Zuki something Jamaris. Migi Rick the Karina, the Pangos and the Song Simti or Song Simtella, Nutrum Silvores.
When we talk about Shila or Tsultim, ethics or morality, we just cannot objectify it, as if ethics means that you have to behave in a particular way. Ethics is more to do with the state of mind. It is defined as Sungsem, means, it is a state of mind to protect. To protect. So in the footnotes, to protect ourselves from the things we don't want, and and find what we want.
That in a big trucks on the children. Jumia, Chupakaya, Churaki, didn't the Song Simti, didn't children.
Metaphorically speaking, practicing ethics or morality is just like, putting up a levee to stop the, floods or the water from flooding. So it's just like that. We practice ethics to kind of protect ourselves from, negative outcomes and negativities.
아니 응원트 공파 토지 주인 받대 아니 반년 나왔다고 어머니 원은 가능한데 was 아니 응원트 주네 조금 레긴 매스 가능.
Great Indian master, Buddhist master Acharya Chandrakirti, in his supplement to the middle way of Madhyamika Avatar states, again Geshe quoted lines from memory where he said that if we are seeking a fortunate rebirth, then there is no other cause but to abide by pure ethics or morality.
같은 사람 아란 쪽에 남주네 다 여러분 이제 그다바가 안 남겨 요레스 저런 저 아니 다 내가 근데 도나 도그레스 다레 얘 never 산세야 말레스 가능 얘 never say 다 얘 never say but 쉐베는 근데 never say 근데 쉐베는 지금 된게 온 거야 저 땡이 다라 아니 원태 공파 탑지 그 람데 까용 거야 제가 순전 뜻다바 가능 도와 계획 좀 버려 저런 펜도 제 돈은 제스 편도시 도구면도나 매기네 다 never 마시선 단 류당 나다 이건 never 산세지야 말했거든.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, every now and then advises us in the simplest language possible, but capturing the very essence of Buddha's teachings. That is, His Holiness would advise us that we should, help others as much as we can. But if we can't help, don't harm them. So in these simple statements, there is a profound message for all of us, if you will, that not harming others means it's a part of our pure ethics. Because if we harm others, then we are creating negativities. Because the whole purpose of keeping pure ethics is not to hurt anybody through our actions of body, speech, and mind. And then helping others as much as we can, that is also part of the pure ethics in the sense that it is a positive karmic actions, helping others.
손자다 가슴에 기운이 바스 렌디가 남겨야 기라 차기 차버레스 아니 동반이 또 비켜를 안 주리 쉐바다 아니 렌디지 남겨 캐버니 가리 렐하여선다 동반이 돈이 떠야 될 렐하여스 간나.
You may recall that last time I said that if we compare subtleties of law of karma to that of the profound view of emptiness, and if you ask which one is rather more difficult to understand, as a matter of fact, it is much more difficult to understand the subtleties of law of karma, even though it is very difficult to realize emptiness as it is, but relatively speaking, that is easier.
손자다 개치휴대 랑톨 데보데 기보 디두 동에 있는데 데보데 기보 있는데 디두 가르쳐 있네요. 때 예래 야라케지야 말이스 랑게 셰베 레이더 랑 멤버티 상당거리스.
So our understanding of the theory of law of karma and actions also includes that when the good and bad things happen to us, or when we experience them, we really cannot blame others for our experiences, but rather we need to look inwardly and understand that all these good and bad experiences I go through my life are the results of my own good and bad karmic actions.
라레게 메예라 때니 숨바지 상 코인 거레스 데 베나타 데 코에 가르레스나 레즈 때와드 랑사여데 이나테 레드 미제케 로싱인다 딱 딘나이테 엔디 미 예라데 제 예라데 용고였다.
So we have a tendency to think that, for example, when the problems come into our life, we started to, find the causes of our problems in other people. Like, okay, he or she is responsible, or they are. In other words, I wouldn't have this problem. And we have a tendency to think that we blame others, and that's because that we really don't understand that the real cause of our problems that is what we have done. But what others have done is they have conditioned, to ripen that very cause of the problem that we ourselves have created. So others are, at the best, are the conditioning factors, but they are not the real causes of our problems.
Later, Rangsati, Troshing it, Yen. The younger spend a Nehan Yapota, Neha Zambota, Tahana is socially occupied, Tunji Yawin, Samalo, Tenzu near the Yak later Rang Sayo at the Yena, that dig drawn of Shiate, and they Yen Latini, Unguares.
So what I've just explained with regard to the negative karmas and also, it's the same thing with the positive things too. That whatever good things are happening in our life, these are the real outcomes of the good karmas that we ourselves have created. Of course, others could contribute to that to those outcomes or activating the good karmas. Let me give an example here. So that if we are living in a very comfortable house or a nice home, basically that is the result of one's own good karma. But we can also see others' contribution here. It is through others' help that somebody helped us build the house or somebody built the house for us. So that is just a conditioning factor. But the real karma to be able to enjoy in a good place or in a house or whatever wonderful facilities we have in life are the results of our own good karmas.
No, that is Geshe. That Geshe shooting around so Lindy now you hear Geshe Geshe. That they taller. Manage Tamaloka, Chudungi Tamaloka, Ranga any that day. Those Shawati, Shawan Haman and Derriman didn't shaman writing about the Shigurus.
So relating to the law of karma, I think it's also important for us to consider and reflect upon how we came from the past life into this life, and from this life we go into next life.
Shawan Hashidi, Rangi. Yabush Mahina, Shell Nashi, but the Mahina, and can say with Chayun Goris, Penna, and Rang, Shawan Hammer to San, maybe to Shawan de Pay, top to the Yum Zone of the data. The Nishini and Shavashama G. Cheney, Sata Donji and the Tendesantona, pay non chamberis.
So we really need to reflect upon and try to understand the connections between the past life to the present life and to the future life. In other words, we came into this life from our past life. So this life is related to what we did in the past life. And what we will be in the future is related to what we are doing now or in the present life. So if we really don't think about this whole, continuity of life and understand this, then we might find ourselves, sometimes thinking in a very weird ways. For example, that if you really don't believe in the past life, let's say previous life, then this life has just happened randomly, right? It's just out of a blue. It just dropped from the sky because there is no connection to be found because we don't accept the past life. And then when this life comes to an end, it is just like, we become nothing, absolutely nothing, because nothing goes, everything ends when we die. So then what happens the next life is just another random thing. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, So all these, weird positions we started to find ourselves, holding.
Senjing joint, and Senjing joint is Sata Don Joy and of Tendeta. Sata do and this Semegata, Galas with the Dream, Senjin Senjin with this on top in that not rich him which he was child only Nampe Chu, Takwatani, maybe taught them here, see.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that we are sentient beings, animate beings. So we have such thing called mind or consciousness, and it has its own continuity. It continues from one life to the next life. So when we die, we do not become a rock or some inanimate objects. And if we think that way, if we think that, oh, when we die, then everything becomes nothing and we just become a rock or some just dust or something, then that shows that we have no understanding whatsoever of the fundamental principles of Buddhism. That's not how it is. Animate beings do not become inanimate objects, and inanimate objects like rocks and trees do not become animate beings.
So that mambo chicken. Garden with the nature that mambo chicken seg doors. Just a time number mambo this security. And this year the bidder nature here the garden is Sanjay Rikil was. Just a Sanjay Rigo is any say Tangi the Sanjay Rigo. Sanjay Rigo is any Sheva Juni. Sheva Juni ma Shevani Shevan do Juni any Sanjay Combatoi Yabajikan.
So you may have heard about the Buddhist position that every sentient being has what we call Buddha nature, the potentiality to become a complete enlightened being. So we said all sentient beings. We didn't say all phenomena. We said all sentient beings. So what really that means is that each and every sentient being can eventually become an enlightened being or Buddha. Okay? But that is based upon, you see, this the notion of life before, life after, and after. Otherwise, nobody says that everybody become a Buddha in this lifetime. Nobody made that position. So it is really important for us to understand what does it mean to say that all sentient beings have Buddha nature, and how does that work?
That thing, that Lucy, Tatu Tibaki doing Tatu some doing is and Lucy to that charge your race. Then that day Sanjay Rixi at the Say Tangila Sanjay Jerik Chabate and the Tatu Tibaki do race.
So if we really, I should say, go deep into the Buddhist literatures, then we find, that different positions are presented in Buddhist literatures, such as, there are those who accept that there are three ultimate, vehicles, or three different vehicles, and each of them are ultimate in its own sense. But then there are those who say that ultimately there is one final vehicle, not three vehicles. There's just one. So from that perspective, that every sentient being can eventually become a Buddha.
Te Karesanate, Tatu Tipasundusia tele any Tindugata. When Tipas Sum Dunke taken Nietuji Shanchuta, Ranji Shanchu, and Tuba Chimita, Sanji Compande Sum Dunke Tandus. That the Sum Dunke Tinder Cheta Tatu Tipaki Regulamare. Cheta Sanji Compand, Sanji Tam Sanji Compatoji Yuba, that Tuba Chimbu Luce. That the any Karsagota, Sanji Tangila Sanji Chabat, those kind.
So in Buddhism, there are those who hold a position that there are three different vehicles or yanas and three different goals relating to that. So the three vehicles or yanas are Shravaka Yan, or the hearer's vehicle, and Pratyeka Buddha Yan, or the solitary realizer's vehicle, and then Bodhisattva Yan, or the Bodhisattva's vehicle. So each of these vehicles, leads to different goals. And so if somebody holds the position that there are these three vehicles, each of them leading to different goals, that is a different position from those who say that in the final analysis, there are no three vehicles or yanas, but there's just one ultimate vehicle. That means everybody becomes a Buddha eventually.
Sonsa, that Tatu Sundrina, Yenteje, Shanchuta, Ranje Shanchun, that Tindi Togu and a tin, a Shava Jin Togu, just a Shava Sheva and Dini, Sheva Kigle, any peggy, taking any toy coverage. Says a Java Junto, Sheva Shamaking about the Guguaris.
So whether one holds the position that there are three different vehicles or yanas leading to three different goals, or there is just in the final analysis one vehicle, ultimate vehicle, it doesn't matter in terms of asserting that it may take many lifetimes to reach any of the goals. Even in the case of, say, hearers, to be able to reach the hearer's liberation, it may take more than one lifetime, So what that tells us is that there is a such thing as life after.
Satado, Shawashima Satado, Jet, and the day, you are mapping about the Tibasumo Conga Lurikin at the Amaris.
So whether one holds the position that there are three different vehicles leading to three different goals, or there is one final vehicle, it doesn't matter. In all of these positions, they assert that sentient beings do not become inanimate objects, and inanimate objects do not become or cannot become sentient beings. Sentient beings have such a thing as what we call mind or consciousness that continues from life to one life to another life.
Then Medoka Tandorachi and Zebota Yabuteriton Metoyabutertosina, not the Yamati Metot, the Yoncha, some beginner Yamarsti.
So if you are people who really appreciate, the beauty of different flowers and different kinds of flowers, so you have them at home or in the garden or whatever, but looking at them, if you think that, how nice and beautiful these are, so in my next life I hope to be one of those flowers, it's never going to happen.
Honest. So that the Sanji Rikseta, Samalo Sanji Rigoris, so that you might think that Samalo Sanji Compatoji Yobata, Tendin Rarisati.
So the good news is that all of us, and as a matter of fact, all sentient beings have what is called Buddha nature, and because of that potentiality, that one day every one of us and every one of sentient being can become a Buddha or enlightened being. Now that, that is, I should say, not an artificial fact being created and presented, but that is in the very nature, that is related to the nature of our mind.
So Tangaran Samalo Sanji Komatoya Totande, never the Yedere, that is simply the never the same Yedere. Yena Yangarazo, Chu Dumni Togu Yarmato, Church and Madubashi, Taha Nibate, the Gashindos in US Samni, did not lay a coverage.
So we all have the potentiality to become a Buddha, called Buddha nature. But that does not mean that without doing anything that we need to do, that somehow eventually everybody will become Buddha just like that. That doesn't make any sense. We have the seed of enlightenment, but we have to make efforts to activate that seed, to nurture that seed, to develop that seed, and become a Buddha. So therefore, we need to cultivate spirituality, and we need to engage in positive actions.
That's Sanji Gomba Toya, you so Cardis than Aranso, Saint-Jean be Hingeta, Ane Tahana Yaga, Saint-Jean Chamba Gomba, that Tenzin Dorjee about the Drogu.
So what are some of the principal causes to become an enlightened being and to activate our Buddha nature is to cultivate great love, great compassion, altruism, and wisdom, etc.
Tandang Hubert, she can Hubert Mato, ye, Sanju Senjum, Mambuch Scott Nanger, that you remember in Bichron, Sava in a Galega, remember with Hayungoros, and you were on that, Melanuk no condition with Nephew Tari Shingo.
And of course, there are many more causes to be cultivated to become a Buddha, such as, great love, great compassion, altruism, and so on. So there are these detailed explanations and presentations of these things, what each of these means, and how to cultivate them, and so on. And those of you who have been in Dharma for a long time, you have attended my Lamrim teachings many times, and so you are familiar with those things. And those who are very new, I just suggest that you read about the Lamrim text, and maybe in the future you can attend Lamrim teachings.
That is Sabbath 7 Shubina, Taki Lana Hundu. Shubina, Saji Combat Toba Shabala, and it Casin in Bas, Tawa number Toba Shaba number Toba Jugures. This song at the Cardesana. And then Sanju Serum Butcher and Jewish Shekugers. The Sanju Rambujeranji Shane, the told Tatan, Titan, Carsi Titan Jawas in the Ligota, and yet don't you talk with Sheranjil Shekugers. Sanju Serum Butcher. Don't you to be hearing about the Rangile Mashaper, Sanji Gombatobaki Mediata?
Just to explain very briefly, what are the main causes of enlightenment, as I was explaining to you last week, as we find stated in this wonderful text called A Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshes Advices, that we need to combine together or integrate what is known as the pure view and the pure conduct. And why do we need to do that? Why do we need to integrate the pure view and the pure conduct together? It's because we need to cultivate the two minds of enlightenment, the conventional mind of enlightenment and the ultimate mind of enlightenment, without which we cannot become an enlightened being.
No. So that the Nani Tandu Anita, Tuba Chimbute, Lamni Shuba Shabala, and then Shamji Serum Bajaranji Shegure, this Shaba Shabala, and then Hiji Chembotan, and then Areta Mantuarse, and then Shamba Chembo Nimbote, Ranjuli Shaba Google, so Sankela maybe he get the Shamba Nimbo, the Chachimbo Yimbitava, Jogin of Kana was just a ticker is a lunch sawan of Tuba Chimba lunch sawa in Yan Kensen Dakim, Yan Zasagata. Cultivating bodhicitta or the conventional mind of enlightenment is very essential to reach enlightened state, because that is considered the door to enter into Bodhisattva's way of life or Mahayana path. And in order to be able to have bodhicitta or altruistic mind of enlightenment, we need to cultivate great love, great compassion, etc., without which we cannot have bodhicitta. And so because of that, His Holiness the Dalai Lama often talks about love and compassion and so on, because these are, very, the essential principles of spirituality or Dharma that we need to, cultivate in our mind. Something in my feelings.
No, we will go back to the text where we left off last time.
Ani Saji Combat of Sheba, Ani Tawa number of Sheba Nabaki, Tabaki, Yandu Shugres, Dubu. Tati Tashi Nibote, Yat Tabina Shankararis, Yahuberta.
So as great Geshe Tsultim was explaining, that in order to reach complete enlightened state, one must integrate the pure view and the pure contact together. Now the three Kadampa brothers ask again, well, if you split them from one another, so what happens? What is wrong with that?
Honest. Ya tawa daba yona ya sheba number of map shebina never chabina takashan careers yakindua.
So in other words, the three brothers, Kadampa Geshe brothers, are saying that hypothetically speaking, of course, that let's say that one has the pure view but not the pure contact, or vice versa. So then what happens?
Tati land mandu kanamba. Tembe henis ta. Ane tawa number tabachi yo changse ta. Tawa number tabachi yo na yangse. Ane sheba number tabachi menas ta. Ane le jundrila menzenki le jundrila zeng maris. Ate sheba tsungui. Ane sheba tsunguli shogris kanan.
And Domtenbach, explains that supposing that one has what is called the pure view, but does not have the pure contact, in such a case, that person will not care about the law of karma and its outcomes, and she will become reckless in his or her behavior.
No, that Shiva Zengwari, legendary Lemenzen, but the Shiva Zengwari Shobina, Shankaresna, Dagi Dumnukmai, Dagi Minutes, Ranta Ginji, and turn to Mareskan.
So if one doesn't care about the law of karma and cause and effect and become reckless in one's behavior, in such a case, that person can neither accomplish his or her purpose of life, nor can help others accomplish their purpose of life.
That the Italia, Minutes, Tawa Thangs, and the Cordons. Tawa number Tabaji, Yene, and the Remembering Pipeta, Karsiju, Rang Tobji, and a Toja number Tabaji Toya, Jul, Dry the Caborescan, Cordons.
So not only that, then what is claimed to be the pure view will also eventually, become useless in the sense that it cannot lead one to enlightened state.
That number Tajishaba number Madana, Lee Judian Menzempata, Ani, Shaba Zimbul Shoyada, and they think sustain around the yin turn to Nuguma's diction. That Shiva number Tapaji Yanayase. Yet Tower number of a mena, Nupi Nilu Matona, Tower number of Jimena, suggestion carriers.
So we just talk about what's wrong with, hypothetically speaking, having what's called the pure view, but not a pure contact. That means one becomes reckless in one's behavior, and one doesn't care about the law of karma, and then things really go wrong. But what happens if one has the pure view, but not the pure conduct, but not the pure view? In other words, that one does not have the understanding of the ultimate nature of phenomena. So in other words, that if one were to have the pure contact but not the pure view, that means one will never realize the ultimate nature of phenomena. So without that realization of the ultimate nature of phenomena, again, one cannot fulfill the purposes of both self and others. So in that situation also, it is rather very difficult for the pure conduct to lead one to where one wants to go. In other words, to help one accomplish one's spiritual goal.
Ane lam lopper hungus lam dosa ke lamga dewa the round dosi doya kata lam dewa the leg mari lam lopper sungres.
So therefore, if we don't integrate or bring together the perfect view and the pure view and the pure contact together, then one may find oneself following a wrong path or falling into a wrong track.
Kare is not that the rang dosa ke lam dewa thatu kare is na sanji kompa togu yor checha delane dothea khapore kanang.
In other words, where we really want to go to is the complete enlightened state of Buddhahood. So in order to get there, we need to integrate the pure view and the pure contact together. But if we do one but not other, then we may, we may never, be able to go to enlightenment.
Voilà. Tena ta shi sun de man tena lang lo per hlong wes ta she de. Ta songju la lab go se songju se ka re se na de songju de ka re se na ani ta wa de she ba ni mo de song de to ne. A lab go res ka na do.
So if we split the two paths from each other, the pure view and the pure contact, we will never get to the enlightened state. So what that is, that tells us that in order to reach enlightened state, we must bring the pure view and the pure contact in a state of unity or union. So we need to practice the union of pure view and pure contact.
Voilà. Ta yang dan de je. Ta yang da kunchi sum kadam kunchi sum shis. Ani yang ane dom tembal tan dom ten jawin jone le. Ya kan ji hyun. Ka re se na kan ko ni na. Tembal la kunchi sum ji sum shis. Wen par nyam se len batang ra wen par la de ni ki bo ndo sin la wen par de nyam se lang batang. Ani senjen la chue je pen do ba ni bo de ke kari cheg res.
Again, the three Kadampa brothers asked Domtempa another question. They asked him, which of these two is a more profitable thing to do? That is, to practice in a solitude or try to benefit sentient beings, through spirituality. So which of these two things is more profitable for one?
Well, that land and do tembe chenes. Ranjula sa rang jula ani nyanto ke mepes. Nyamnyo ta ani ta ngone shona nyamnyo ta te toba ramne toba shiga ju toba masene ya ranjuli nyamnyo ke gogares. Ta ranjula nyamto se ta ni su dibra ba ranjula nyamto se nyamnyo ta tobas ke mepes le tambo bes kanza ke ani le tambo kanza ndu sengen la chue pen ta jam ta toy khapore pen to chemo yong ma le kan.
Domtempa answers the following. Individuals who do not have experience and realizations, such individuals on the beginner's path, even if they try to benefit other sentient beings through Dharma or spirituality, they really can't benefit them. So the point here is that to be able to benefit other sentient beings, the best thing is we should have both experience and realizations of Dharma. But even if we don't have realizations, unless we have good experiences, then we may be able to benefit others through spirituality. If we are lacking in both areas, then try to benefit others through spirituality is not going to be of much benefit. That's Domtempa's answer.
Ki wangku shinle de shebi na wangku shinle shebi na shinle ne tongba shewa tan datis te tli shebi na jing ne tongba pandu shi she ma to ta tin pe jalas ke men te ka wu chai de tin na jires shinle ne tongba shewa tan datis shinle long ju me san.
And Great Domtempa uses this metaphor or example to illustrate his point. He says, let's say if one does not have experiences and realizations of Dharma, then trying to benefit others through spirituality is just like, trying to pour something out of an empty pot or container into another pot. Nothing is going to come out. So this is like, say, somebody who has neither experiences nor realizations, but trying to give an empowerment or initiation, let's say tantric, and then in that ritual we involve giving something, blessings and inspiration to others, but there's really nothing to give. It's just an empty pot trying to give something pour into empty pot.
Ta di dhamma aseta di gyuten yin da kari yin ta ti dhamma tis bangma nempra singpi changtan da this dan di danyi ma kasi na chon do sine chang zhe ne ta 저 규망보 인도시 제네 제차부터 달래 방마세거다. 규시라 메게들 방마세거. 뜻지네 배 뜻지가 창치된 데시. 다 로더 트와키라 요 말스카는. 당알라 로규 메스는 what?
And then Dhamma uses another example to illustrate the point. He said it's just like alcohol that has how you say no fermentation. It has no what you call zit in it. That it doesn't do anything. It's just like a water. It has lost its potency to intoxicate people. And the people who like to drink, because they get, zit out of that drinking alcohol. It has alcoholic content. But that alcohol has lost its potency to intoxicate you, then it is just water. I mean, there's nothing in it, So just like that, without experiences and realizations, if one were to sort of, let's say, teach others Dharma, that instruction or teaching will have no power. It has no content. It's just like alcohol with no alcoholic potency.
Tandijen, Dre Tobalas, Jolam Turita, Dre Tobalas, Dre Jolam Turl, Temba Masopi, Ane Mebashibi Kazakzet, Ane the Sushi show, Tendiginata. When a lamely human and social in Kazakis, Singy Jitan Sharmatutes, Shenle Bomba Rape, Shenle Bomba Kanju Tandrates, Yen Kanzana, Rani Yen Kanzana, Rani Tombanchers, that Tombe Tombal Patang in my future, the Chagres can. Then they could call it Hondoa.
Until one has stabilized oneself in the heat level of the path of preparation, we call Che. Even if one were to try to benefit sentient beings through teachings, it is just like, one tries to pour something out of one's container into other's container. There's something in it. But once you give that, when you pour your pot into others, then your pot becomes empty because there's nothing to sustain it.
That's Sushi show in a pen language, Kazakina, and Dread Tolas, and the Temper Matos, the Meshe salad. Then you get that Kitsarba. And it's just that the Pentukiate, you had to get a couple of Canada.
So, in other words, we're talking about we're talking about those who have already entered into what we call a spiritual path. They have not yet realized, maybe they are on the, they have already, maybe attained the path of accumulation and even certain levels of the path of preparation, but not stabilized in the heat level of the path of preparation. Even these people who have already entered into spiritual path, they have something to give. But when we give that to others, then they themselves might become empty. Just like, you have a pot with something in it. When you pour it into another pot, now the other pot gets it, but this pot becomes empty.
So that Ran le Temba Topa Yabuchi Mena, Danga Ani Dreamy Lajutan Tratis. When I Mamiki, the socially you have this Midipate in the meat candidates around the Ran say Yamaros, Yen Seltsana. So then he gives more example to illustrate the point that, if one has not yet stabilized in a certain level of the path, then even if we try to help others, it's just like, say, you have a lighted candle, that is shining and illuminating now, and if you give that candle to the other person, that other person brings it to a different place, now you are in complete darkness because you give what you have to the other person. So there's nothing to sustain the illumination in, at your place. Yin Seltsam, Ranin Triple Satomnista, Satoni Pape Kazari, that's Satomnista, this Satomnis here, this Shangisembi, that's Shangisembi Salsundindo, Satoni, Mara Senji Jitan to say shower in this. Satom so any Karashabana Lunga shower tam Ma any Senji Dogres cano to say shower in this. Shenla Pomba Zampa Mudu Tantas.
On the other hand, when one has reached spiritual ground, so we can think in terms of Bodhisattva's grounds, spiritual ground, which begins with the path of seeing. So if one has attained the path of seeing and above, then if one were to benefit others, as a matter of fact, one is completely dedicated to benefit others, and one were to benefit others, not only one would be able to benefit others tremendously, but one is able to sustain the power to benefit others within oneself. An example given here is just like what we call a wish, almost like a wish-fulfilling vase. You put, into other containers from this vase, not only the other containers are filled and satisfy other people, but this vase has this inexhaustible resources within it.
Yeah. That go Tomba Dogmaresta, Richas one.
No.
That yen tanki member say chance. But not Sat Tomney, and that do any Senji Drubala, and yen tanki Senji yen and member say chance. Around any Kangkong makes it that rang pay Karashi when that rang Yuntin and the man under the data and Ranle gave a chend of the Tan Young Maris, yen tanki member say Ranla Canton Miss, Yen Cassit Traveling in a round pay Tagana Jungu or to pay Sendway Mariscano. Pen and dip and Bazambos and Udu and that's a pen, Noburum Buchi in a Noburum Buchi, when I Yen Jimba Cassetani, Noburum Buchi Rana, you are in tea, any tea, Tully, any Taganagi pay, Namanagi Chunjundu or 1090 race cannon.
So the point is that once one attains a spiritual ground, and then from then onward try to benefit others, not only would one be able to benefit others tremendously, but one is able to sustain the power, the resources to benefit others. And so it is just like the more you give to others, the more you have. It's not like the more you give, the more empty you become in the previous cases, So when one tries to have others ripen their minds and benefit them, one is also able to maintain the resources and increase one's resources. And the example Geshe has given is just like a wish-fulfilling gem. A wish-fulfilling gem is capable of fulfilling others' wishes. By fulfilling others' wishes, the wish-fulfilling gem does not diminish. It does not become less of a wish-fulfilling gem.
The Satomni and it is associated because Jimbatan and Karishin Chabianti, Danga, the any Mami Himatan Tatis, Mami hit around you have in the Mami killing into Mobuji, Jaton Tontama Chimbianako, Mami Tsawe, Mami Takaran, the Tsaber Mamera Takadegra was still 90, Rang Pay, Chimba, Kadiji Shabi and around Tomba Chagamares, Pesa Taka Degreta, Tangi Chivarate, and the Chivarate.
So basically, Domtaba is giving different examples to illustrate the same point, that once you are on a spiritual ground, and then you try to benefit others through the generosity of giving teachings and so forth, not only is one able to benefit others a lot, but one is able to sustain the resources to benefit others. So this is just like another example is just like the butter lamp that has a lot of oil inside the lamp, and it can help lit other butter lamps, but at the same time it does not get extinguished because it still has a lot of oil and resources and it's still burning.
No, that and the Tawani and that Tambo the Shonso that you but the land you say you wins.
So the three Kadampa brothers, Geshe brothers, asked Domtamba like these two questions: which of these two things is more beneficial or profitable? Actually, the word they use is profitable, to practice in solitude or try to benefit sentient beings through Dharma.
No. That so at the Kimba Huberes, 말아서 된사한테 근데 기라 커버로 왔어.
So what really Domtamba has said is very important, no doubt. But then when we look at our present situation, it's rather really hard to find, somebody in that situation.
So that when you condition that don't have easy that hard any pen do so one night that into any socially young to the men that they social any pig that talk about machine that you temper men that night coverage.
Especially in the case of giving tantric empowerment initiations, if one does not have, experiences and realizations, then trying to give an initiation is really difficult, to initiate others into tantric practice. And even if one doesn't have realizations, at least one got to have, rich experiences. So otherwise it will be like as Domtama described earlier. It is just like we are trying to pour something into another. We are trying to pour, something out of the empty pot into another empty pot. There's nothing to come out. Now, from a Sutrayana point of view, or the discourses point of view, right, we know how important it is to give teaching Dharma, because without teaching Dharma, then, we won't be able to understand Dharma. So then, even in this regard, as I look at myself, and also others, it's possible same, that it's really hard to exactly be the one Domtamba has said, that, the best would be to have both experiences and realizations. And when I look at myself, well, that's rather difficult,
when Jimba Gulon number Tabaji Toane, and the can't get you trade the Manova, so you can't share it. I was Shavina that day, Jimba number Tabaji regulars.
Having acknowledged that, but then in the Treasury of Knowledge of Abhidhammakosha by Acharya Vasubandhu, great Indian Buddhist master, it says that, as Geshe quoted the stanzas from his memory, that, if one were to give teaching with pure motivation, to the best of one's knowledge and abilities, in other words, that one does not mislead others, but try to represent the teaching correctly, but with pure motivation, that is considered as a good example of the practice of generosity of giving teaching. So, in the light of what Vasubandhu has said, that one could give teaching, with pure motivation and with correct understanding. And when it comes to the portions of teaching where one do not understand, then one should not pretend. Either one should be honest in saying that I really don't know in these matters, or one should at least don't teach the things one doesn't know. So the point I'm trying to make here is that out of pure motivation, and so if we were to share one word of Dharma that we understand to someone who is sincerely interested in learning that and asks for that, then that becomes a gift of a gift of Dharma. That becomes a practice of the generosity of giving teaching, and that is very beneficial. And we will stop there today, and I have a few announcements, and I have an announcement and a request to make. So So the first announcement, I believe that Annie already did announcement, but I'm just kind of repeating here to make sure that you hear this. As you know that the Tibetan New Year called Losar is next Sunday, which is great because usually we get up early morning and come there and do the prayer and then run to school or work. It's kind of crazy, but this is Sunday. So we have a simple prayer ceremony at 7:30 at the Long Beach Monastery, and we will pray for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Geshe-la and so on. And then we serve light breakfast there and wish everybody Happy New Year. And then at noon, as a matter from 12 to 5, I was told that we will do our annual Losar potluck. And so this will be at the Veterans Park, Social Club or Hall, Veterans Memorial Park, 101 East 28 Street, Long Beach. And I believe there are beautiful cards printed out with information in the lobby. You can take one with you. And so we invite one and all to this potluck and to the Losar. You can bring your family and friends. You can bring your favorite dish. You could be on diet, but you bring the best diet food you like. Or the vegans can bring the vegan food they eat. And also, I would also add, please bring your good talents. You can sing, you can read poetry, you can share good jokes, not any dirty jokes, and so on. And so that, and then, of course, next Sunday there is no teaching because it's the Losar ceremony. But following Wednesday, which is the 21st, which usually Geshe-la gives Lamrim teaching in the evening, that is going to be there. That will be his last teaching for this year. And the prayer request is for Mary Carriker, who was in a very bad accident. So prayer has been requested for her. Namaskar.
that nothing in the thinking that Mambo Huji, Shangu Mambo Hugo the was. And the Tamalo Beta, Karina, that Nari. When they very transition to Chile to that, any sometimes.
So we got a name of a person who was in a bad accident, and we know that we always get many requests, like people who are terribly sick, or they are on the on the verge of dying, or they already passed away. So we think about everybody and we wish them the best, and may they be able to find good rebirths and a dharma, and then be able to take care of themselves in the future lives.
Shadon Gole Jave Jaboto, Shadon Gaba Zombie Sanjay Tomo, Chamba Shari, the Chance, Lo, Manipemi, all of that. Maran Samalo Anita, during any Hinkidun Zomni, any Churchini Shebe Zaula Deni, Sanji Temper Majitaji, the Nevata. Jawigin of the two within the ship of Thomas, you could have been them by the 2 units and maybe Yamata. Any church don't show Poman as you tune Shawana is the robot. You think you come to the end of Mentivic was the Henny, Twinching Lesota than maybe
Let us dedicate our merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great masters and holy beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach Buddhahood soon. No.
That's Sunday teaching lesson.
No.
So that is letter. And in Africa, Jagan say, any Anila Venerable Tenzin de okay, that's some shit and Nangares.
Just relating to the previous announcement that next Sunday there is no teaching, this is New Year. But then after that, there is the Wednesday teaching, and then Geshe is leaving for India for a while. So during his absence, Venerable Tenzin Dorjee will give Sunday teachings.
Sometimes, and the Churanzo, any kind you introduce that the Yona, Yabo, is carrying is not unlike Koran, can Shabate. I hear rest. I'm a shepherd, hearing my son, something, can't hear but the pento in the coverage.
So I would encourage all of you to attend her teachings. She will teach you the things she knows, and I know she's not going to teach anything she doesn't know, and I think it will be helpful to you. So I think that's important.
That can't see. And when Toronto the Carseti. Zalapani Hidaka Marabas, so that not pay Jagal champion, the children, not Jagan to Sering and they some Zanyamal Chushiata. So see any Nirika, any Chish Shawakarina, Seattle, Yajia, I think I have a drink to the Shagulis.
So I would also encourage you to, continue your study and practice in my absence. Of course, during my absence, there's only going to be Sunday teaching, but the others, not everybody, but many come to my Wednesday teaching, so it's not there. So you use that time to do your practice and do your study.
That can't share, but see, Lalin, that television,
as I always say that if we could put into practice as much as we can, whatever we have learned, so that's, very, very good and very important. So just want to say Happy New Year right now to all.
So Kangre Ravi Kurve Chingamade Pendon Dewa Male Jungre Ne Shere Zawa Tenzin Gyeltsen Shabe Sinte Bado Tenjuru Ji Saye Beje Shoje Medo Chama Rero Lenje Nide Kembonde Sanje Yendo Mede Vuwaye Dokwen Namda Jino Shevara Sho Idama Guru Nama Tela Niyadaya Me.